Welcome to the Good Random Podcast, where we talk all things Brawl Stars. On today's episode, I did the LCQ drawing for Brawl Stars esports. It's the biggest thing that everybody is talking about in Brawl Stars right now. Super spicy groups. Heads up advance to my NA folk. Deeply sorry. It was random. I was just pulling some names out of a bowl. And of course, we get live predictions and instant reactions quite literally about 10 minutes after the drawing happened with professional player and world finalist Drage. It's going to be a banger of an episode. If you're new to the show or the channel, would really appreciate it if you subscribed or followed on whatever platform you're listening on. Really appreciate you all. Let's get right into it. All right, we've got a super special guest on today for the show. He has over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube and has a professional Brawl Stars player for several years now. It is none other than Drage. Drage, just keep it 100 with me. I just literally drew the names out of the hat or the fishbowl. How mad do you think pros are at me?
I think you have to move countries, change your name, change everything, like your bank account details, like just change everything, run away, go in hiding for like a year minimum, and maybe that will save you a little bit.
Yeah, I tweeted it immediately, but I cooked way too hard. I promise I love all my pro players equally. Just drew some names out of a fishbowl, and Chef Destiny was not on my side today. I have been getting some. I just glanced at the DMs and the Twitter @. Not a great day for the kid, but that's okay. Again, I promise it's completely random, but yeah, tough day for the PR team for the Kenny casts. But you know what? It is what it is. After seeing these groups, how happy are you being already qualified for the World Finals that you get to dodge all this chaos? How happy are we?
Literally, as soon as I saw Group B, I put in my team GC. Guys, I am so grateful that we've qualified to Worlds, because if we have to go through this is just crazy. Like, yeah, this is like the craziest thing.
Yeah, definitely one of the benefits of being like a top seed. Like, I can't imagine. It was on last week's podcast that I was talking with Corey, and I was literally like, there are no freebies on this planet. And especially not having to go through an extra entire tournament just to qualify for Worlds is going to set so many teams that have already made it up. And again, I think makes the regular season even that much more important. I think we're definitely going to be seeing that now. But we'll go ahead and I'll show off the groups on the screen. For the people at home, I'll read these off for you that are just listening on audio, but if you're watching on video, you can, of course, see the last chance qualifier groups. So Group A, SK Gaming, Team Flash, Raconic SA, Chasma Gaming, EA. I think consensus is going to be back and forth. I think some people are probably going to sleep on Team Flash, but we'll get your thoughts on that in a moment. Group B, VN Esporting, STMN, Chasmic NA, Clash. I promise you guys I love NA. That is a very tough group, though. Group C, Humble, Revenant Esports, Rising Sun SEA, Dados FA, and finally Group D, Navi, Reject, SK Kalalas, and Mark O's Gaming. So right off the bat, Drage, going to get your kind of take here on which group stands out to you the most, you think? I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Group B.
Yeah, Group B it's crazy. Like, as soon as I saw SCMN get drawn, I was like, all right, this might be crazy. And then I saw like Group A, Raconic got drawn. I'm like, hold up, this is like very few options, and this could be the group of death. And then Chasmac NA got drawn. I didn't even know that was possible. Both NA teams in one group. That was crazy. And then I just had a feeling that we'll just get the ultimate group of death, which is Clash finishing things off. And yeah, that was just, I was honestly speechless. I was going crazy in the VC. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. So the rule was that we couldn't have sub-regions clash. So when I'm drawing the names, I saw the same thing you did, obviously. I was reacting live. Honestly, it was very difficult to read something. It's hard to describe, but I was looking at the camera and trying to read names. So I think at one point, low-key, only one person caught it out. I thought I got away with it. But I think as I was doing it, Humble's name was like upside down because their logo is perfectly symmetrical. So I have low-key just held the thing upside down. But yeah, tough group, man. I mean, obviously I'm from NA. I've watched this region more than any other region, and seeing STMN and Chasmic Gaming NA in the same region breaks my heart a little bit, to be honest with you. Tell me about VN Esporting a little bit. Obviously you're from EMEA. You've had to compete against these guys. I think EMEA, the EMEA folk are going to be big. Obviously, everybody's going to be cheering for the regions when predictions come through. But are VN Esporting in a spot here where they're going to be underestimated?
I think out of all the EU teams, they're the most dangerous. I feel like they have like the highest ceiling out of all the EU teams, because the players they have, they're so raw in talent, and the more they play tournaments and get experience, they just get better and better. And I feel like they can be very dangerous, especially when the format's best of three, best of three. I feel like they can take a few series and potentially get number one in the group.
Yeah, day one's going to be some serious chaos. I mean, the fact that we get to watch this group alone, it would have been enough for me in terms of just great matches to be good enough for the day. But on top of that, we have 3 other groups. But I think that's interesting that you say that. Obviously, you're going to know these guys super well and competitors. A little bit newer for a lot of these guys in terms of that LAN experience. So I'm really curious to see how these guys show up on game day. I mean, just early impressions of this group, it's going to be a best of 3. Do you think all 4 of these teams have a legitimate chance of going through? And I think what many are going to be calling the group of death. I've already seen it labeled that like 60 times on Twitter just in about 3 minutes here that I've been added. Do you look at it that way?
Yeah, I think this is the ultimate group of death. I had a feeling this might happen, that we might just get the best group of death possible, and this is probably it. Maybe you can throw in, instead of 2 NA teams, like a East Asia team like Reject. But I think this is as good as you get as a group of death. And I think for viewers, this will be very entertaining. I feel so sorry for the players playing in it, but it's just how it is now. We just gotta get through it.
Yeah, and I think initial reactions, it's going to suck for all these guys. I know that CMG, NA, and STMN have been, at least from spectating, pretty big scrim partners throughout the year too, so that's obviously going to change up here, I'm sure too. But obviously, I wish the best for all these teams. It's just kind of part of it, I think. Again, just doing my best. I just draw the names out of a hat, and whatever happens, happens. But I'm with you. I think Group B is definitely going to be the toughest of the 4. I think in terms of viewers, absolutely awesome experience. You guys are definitely going to want to watch on October 7th and 8th. But it is a tough swing. And again, no freebies in Brawl Stars. Other than that, though, what other groups stand out to you between A, C, and D? Is there another one that you feel like maybe is not quite this group of death, but still very legitimate, has several teams, and maybe you could see going a few different directions?
I think C and D, Humble and Revenant, should absolutely smoke their groups. I think Navi and Reject should smoke Group D. So I think, yeah, I just don't see those groups going any other way. Group A, I find very interesting. I think Raconic are gonna get 0-3 in their groups, and then I think, I don't know, it's weird because Team Flash, they have like 3 Japanese players on their team, but I think it all does come down to if they can build chemistry in time, which will make them very dangerous. I think raw mechanics is not going to carry them on its own. And I think SK, they're looking to prove themselves, and I think SK is going to be the hungriest team out in that group. I saw something on Twitter, Kenji feeling very confident, and he wants to get this done. I think Chasmak EA, they have like so much experience, and they got a couple championships under their belts on that roster, and I just think that group can be very crazy. And I think Chasmak EA is going to be a lock-in for me, and then maybe I think Team Flash might steal away SK's spot. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, initial reactions, I think I was thinking that those 3 teams that you mentioned are also serious contenders as well. I'm really curious to see how Team Flash shows up. Obviously, this is an SEA region with players that historically have played over in East Asia. The toughest region, arguably, has had several world champions come through. Of course, Chasmak EA coming out of that. And I think what we've seen in the regular season from Chasmak EA hasn't quite shown the ceiling that we've seen from them in the past. Obviously, those guys, some of them on that team have made World Finals. You've even, played against a handful of these guys, seen them in person as well. There's some absolute beasts on LAN. Obviously, Reject and Crazy Raccoon have felt like a step ahead of them this year, so I'm curious to see what the 3rd best team in EA looks like against somebody like SK Gaming, who's been a serious competitor in Europe, especially the second half of the year. They've been really popping off. Team Flash, a giant question mark too, especially with the players that they've got. So I'm kind of curious to see how that goes down as well. I guess my next question would be, what matches are you looking forward to most among all of these? So out of all the groups, you got to pick one match that you're highlighting and you recommend the people at home watch. What match would that be?
I just think it has to be STMN and Chasmak NA. I feel like those teams are so close, and like they're like, I know they're all like best of friends and stuff, and I just think that's gonna be crazy. Like, there's gonna be so many emotions going through that match, and I just think it's gonna be the craziest one by far out of everything.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think when I jotted down very quickly right before this, like what that would be for me, that was the number one I had as well. I mean, it's just like going to be a very emotional match. It's going to be a best of three. Literally anything can happen. Obviously, both NA teams, we get to see what some of the best from NA East and some of the best from NA West are going to get to do. And I think that's something in NA we don't get to often, at least outside of things like the ESL big seasons and things like that. But this will be CMG NA's kind of test at LAN. I think these guys really have the potential to pop off. Obviously, been doing really well the second half of the year. They've taken some off Tribe Gaming. R7 in that region was phenomenal too. But STMN to me are one of the contenders here. I think coming into this tournament, regardless of groups, I kind of had them baked in as somebody that can make it out alive as a 1 or a 2. Obviously, if we get some even crazier stuff like Reject in there, I think anything can happen. But I think STMN are pretty good candidates to try and make it out of there. The other one I wrote down too is a sneaky one is I think Clash versus CMG NA was a little interesting one too from that group that I'm going to be really looking forward to. I think Clash is in a spot where a lot of people are going to sleep on them. They've obviously been playing one team for the majority of the year and they haven't gotten the best of them. But I do think this is an opportunity for them to remind people why they've been so good at LANs in the past. And I think this is an opportunity for CMG NA to get a must win in that group. Every single win is going to be a must win for those teams, to be honest with you. You literally have to get 2 or it's just kind of over. And I think CMG are going to be hungry to prove themselves. They've got some players returning that are now in their second year going to international tournaments. Clash are no strangers to the scene. I think they're going to remind people why they're darn good at this game. And I think every match from that group is going to be good. You've got me excited for VN Esporting out of there too. So I think that's what I'm going to keep my eyes on. Another question for you too. Of all of these teams, which team do you think has the potential to surprise the most people? So maybe somebody that people don't expect to be a contender here, but that people should keep their eye on.
I think VN Esporting for me is a team that could just prove on to like a little underdog story within LCQ. I feel like people like don't know how good they really are. I think they can, you have Rama, he has crazy good confidence. Meb in the ESL LAN, he was pretty good, and they have the new teammate, Nob, who hasn't played a LAN yet. It's gonna be his first LAN. I'm sure his teammate's gonna help him ease into things. It's a very tough group to start your first LAN into, but I'm sure if they focus up and just stay, composed, they could play spoiler in that group and take it all. And I also think Revenant can be a little bit dangerous. I think they look decent in Japan. And I know they can be very dangerous. I know they have like very good mechanics on that team, and I feel like they can play spoiler in on day 2 and beat a team and surprisingly go worlds. I think all those scenarios can happen.
Yeah, especially now after seeing the drawing too. The first team that I actually wrote down when quickly jotting some notes was Revenant Esports as well, actually. I think Revenant don't necessarily have a full resume to them. I just don't think we've been able to see it. I don't think they've had that opportunity to kind of showcase. They arrived at Japan, obviously due to some travel and visa stuff. They got there at the very last second and, couldn't necessarily scrim at LAN like they wanted to. But these guys have been at the top of India this entire year. They've now had multiple international experiences. I'm hoping that they'll be even more prepared. They'll get that deserved time to kind of scrim, boot camp, do whatever they need to do, and show up and play. And I think Group C, we talk about Group B being the group of death, but I do think Group C has some teams that all have a lot of question marks by them. I think Revenant being one of those teams. But I do think, given what we saw at Japan, I see that potential in them too. It's not like they walked out with a bunch of 3-0s getting swept, despite not being as prepared, despite not having that opportunity to, rest for a few days, get used to the time zones, all that jazz. I thought they still showed up and played pretty well, like you said. So that was actually the first team that I wrote down. And then Team Flash, a huge question mark for me too, that I think kind of has that high ceiling as well. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I just think the players on that team have been really good before. If they can find the synergy, if they can get the drafts down and all that jazz, I think they could be a sneaky team to walk out of that group. And then one last hypothetical question for you before we hopefully get some of your predictions here. If you could pick any match, day 2, you get one just for the viewers, you'd love to see it. It's going to be a big old golden ticket match. If you could have one match happen, what match would that be? And what do you think would be the most entertaining for the people at home?
I think it just has to be SK versus STMN on day 2.
Really?
I think that'll be crazy.
Why is that? A little rematch from Master is a little EMEA, NA type stuff?
I think it's just the storyline of EU versus NA. Like, I think that's just the craziest storyline in all esports game. EU versus NA is just pretty pretty crazy. And I think SK on paper, they are like the best EU team. I think SGMN on paper are the best NA team from this. And I think those two fighting it out for Worlds in one best of 5, I think that's just crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good, spicy candidate as well. I had S Team and Reject just because coming into this, I think they're the two arguably best teams on paper. Reject, we haven't gotten to see as at least that roster play at LAN this year. Obviously, I think those guys are still going to show up and be pretty good though. A Choppy needs no introduction, absolutely insane. And then obviously, I think very highly of S Team. And like I said, coming into the Fishbowl, I really thought that, you know, unless something absolutely crazy happens, which it did, in fairness. But I did think S-Team and we're going to walk into this as pretty big contenders. So who knows, though? Day 2 will be more of that one match. I would assume it's going to be like monthly finals. I would assume it's going to be a best of 5 type thing, too. So another sneaky one for me too. I think there's a real chance that Navi could make it out of their group. I think if SK Gaming versus Navi ended up happening, I know EMEA, we get to see stuff like that all year, but they've been very competitive this year. I think if it was like one EMEA team of those two gets to go, I could see that being very huge. Obviously, 2 large franchises, Navi fans would go nuts. SK Gaming, It would be like the battle of EMEA, and I think it would be absolutely insane. So that was one random one that I was like, I think that could legitimately possibly happen, and I think would be super spicy. All right, I know you've had no time to think about this. This is literally 10 minutes after I drew some Fishbowl names. Are you okay if I get your predictions here? Like instant reaction. I'm not going to hold you to it, but I would love to get your thoughts on some of these groups if we walk through it.
All right. So Group A, I think Chasmac EA is a lock.
Okay.
I think they're 100% making it out. I think obviously it's between Team Flash and SK. I think Flash are going to figure the things out, build some chemistry, and I think they're going to take the second slot from that group.
Okay.
Group B, I think both NA teams are going to come out on top. I think there may be, I don't know if there's tiebreakers or something, but I think there may be a tiebreaker, but I do think CMG NA will come out on top. I think SCMN should have a very comfortable group as well. I think they're the best team there. I think they're the best LAN team there, and I think they're going to find their way and manage to come out with ease. I think CMG NA is going to take the second slot.
Okay.
Group C, I think Humble Revenant are probably way better than the other 2 teams. I don't even think that's a question. Group D, again, same thing. I think Navi and Reject are just way better than the other 2 teams. And yeah, those are the 8 teams. Okay.
You're pretty quick with that. I mean, I think despite how spicy Group B was, it felt like you had a pretty quick response. I'm happy that you're trusting in NA. Obviously, I'm from NA. I'd love to see a bunch of NA representatives at Worlds. But yeah, I mean, tough group as well. I think of that Group B, VN Esporting is the one with the most unknown, but you seem to be believing in them too. Think they're a pretty good team. Like you said, we've praised a lot of STM in here, but I do think STMN are going to be a very good team. I think just about any group I think they could walk out of. And Chasman Gaming NA, I think one that obviously has some serious upside. We've at least seen a little bit what Clash have done in the past. We know Chasman Gaming NA have gotten some good matches against Tribe this year and things like that. So I could easily see the case for them doing it too. So yeah, I think that pretty good instant reactions. I appreciate you just having no hesitation to share thoughts on things like that. So any last thoughts before LCQ? I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a pretty spicy tournament.
Well, I'm going to be there, so I'm going to be watching all of this live. And also, I think this is not even the beginning. I think day 2 is going to be crazier. Like the matchups you can get, I was just putting them out on paper. You can get like STM and SK, you can get Chasmac NA versus Reject. You can get Navi versus like Chasmac EA. I think day 2 is just going to be even more crazier, and eventually hyping up Worlds being even more crazy. I think this is just I don't know. I just love all this. As a viewer, it's just so good.
Yeah, I think I feel for the teams, but I think it's hard to argue that this will not be one of the most entertaining I think events Brawl Esports has ever had. You know, I think depending on the region, depending on the month, we've had times where it's felt like, you know, some of the smaller sub-regions might have one team that's just been winning 5 of 6 months, 6 of 6 months for the year. I don't think anybody's getting a freebie in this, though. And I think day 2, the pressure, the LAN event, everyone going to be in one room fighting for one spot. I mean, it is literally a winner-take-all match. You know, there's not a lot of room for error during the regular season, but there is no room for error at LCQ. You have to have a perfect day. It's going to be all about who shows up on game day, who plays the best that day. And I think, as you know, as I say all the time on broadcast, there are, on any given day, any pro team can win. All these teams are out here grinding hours a day to be the best in the world, just like you, just like a lot of these guys. It is not an easy thing, and I think this is arguably going to be the most competitive Worlds, and LCQ, of course, too. I've been on that take for a hot second since Masters. I think coming in the year, Crazy Raccoon got a lot of hype. We see all these world finalists get together, but to be honest with you, Masters was super spicy. And like I told Corey last week on the pod, we literally had Reply Totem not win a single grand finals in their region and then show up to Masters and win the thing. Tribe Gaming got second, lost to CMG and R7 3 months in a row. No freebies. It is a hard game, and I think that's gonna be interesting. So I wish you the best of luck at Worlds. Of course, are you excited to go to Sweden? You've been there, I believe, once before, right? You went for MSI maybe last year.
Yeah, we went for MSI.
Yeah, how did you enjoy Sweden? Are you excited to go back?
I think Sweden was my favorite LAN event.
Really? Corey had some high praise for it too in the last episode. That's interesting.
We had a lot of fun in Sweden. We went crazy. We were just like vibing. I think the weather was so nice. The town was like so like quiet. Not too quiet, but like very peaceful. And I think the scenery and the whole country in general was just beautiful. I think the only thing bad about Sweden was the food. But other than that, I just think it was my favorite LAN event by far.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard some good regards for Sweden too. So cool to see that the event's going to go back there. It'll be a part of DreamHack once again, which I believe MSI last year was as well. Yeah. So that's pretty cool that Brawl will be a part of a huge event as well. So if any of the people at home are trying to go, it is in person. You can have fans at Worlds. You can go cheer on your boy Drage, you can all your favorite Brawl esports team, and see who ends up coming out on top. I think Worlds is going to be super spicy too. I mean, the fact that 4 teams are going to be joining the already stacked 8 that we have going to Worlds. I can't wait. I don't even know how it's going to work with 12 teams, but I just know it's going to be awesome. It's going to be super intense. In terms of training right now, what does that look like for you?
Well, I think what most people do if they qualify for Worlds, they try and take it easy. I'm going to try and make sure we stay on top of things. I think we can just increase our like mechanics and stuff, our game sense. We have so much time to work with. For me, we can't waste that time. I feel like if we have to improve, we don't save it until later. We try and compete with these LCQ teams and scrims and stuff and take them seriously to increase our levels, to try and figure out the enemy teams that we could be playing in World Finals. And I just think we just got to focus on the grind and improve. Like, it's a big 3 months for us. Like, it looks like a break, but realistically, we're going to try and push it even more and more and try and do our best at Worlds and hopefully win it.
Yeah, I respect that a ton. How much do you feel like Hypercharge is going to swing things up? We got some new maps coming in too. I mean, you talked about scouting opponents as well. You know, how much does that all play into effect even months out before Worlds?
I think for figuring out teams, I think it's good to just get a feel of them, what they like. Like, you can just find some common trends if you were to watch them at LCQ. And if you watch like their previous monthly finals and stuff, you can figure out some things that it's not very like obvious. I think Hypercharge won't be too effective. Like, I think as of now, if they were to allow Hypercharge in LCQ, I think it'll be perfectly fine. Like, I have some crazy takes, but I just don't think Hypercharge is as good as people make it to be. I played against it in scrims already, and yeah, I just don't think it's that crazy good. I feel like it's decent. I don't think you get it as much, and I think it's gonna be completely fine at Worlds. I mean, we're definitely ready to take on that challenge.
Heck yeah, love the adjustments, love the mentality. I know you've got actually a scrim here in just a few minutes, so I really appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, best of luck if we don't chat with you before Worlds as well. I appreciate you being open and honest about LCQ. I know all my EMEA folks, especially people like you, like Trav, always very honest with me, so I appreciate you being willing to give the people your instant reaction right after literally we drew the names. I mean, I can't illustrate enough. It was literally like, at this point, like 20 minutes ago, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. But thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you being on. Anything you want to shout out before I let you go?
Shout out to my team so that we don't have to play LCQ. We qualified for Worlds. Shout out to my team. Shout out to all the fans. And I think you guys got blessed with a very enjoyable LCQ to watch, and so did I. So hopefully everyone enjoys the show. And see you at Worlds.
Yes, sir. See you at Worlds. And yeah, you heard it here first. October 7th, October 8th. Be sure to watch LCQ. I know I will. I know Drage will. And yeah, thanks for talking with me, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.